A television test pattern displays vertical color bars in bright yellow, cyan, green, magenta, red, and blue across the top, with smaller colored squares and black sections below.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 10 to Many Voices. 10 to Many Voices is part of the core Discovery 2 Traveling Lewis and Clark exhibit. And what this tent is exactly what it sounds like. It's a place to hear a wide variety of perspectives or voices about the Lewis and Clark expedition and also the 200 years since then. And what we have here this afternoon is we're lucky to have with us Curly Bear Wagner. And Curly Bear is of the Blackfeet people. He's going to talk a little bit about the history and culture of his people, and specifically their encounter with Captain Lewis and his men, and give you a unique perspective, a First Nations perspective on those encounters. So please give Curly Bear Wagner a warm 10 to Many Voices welcome.
A person in a ranger hat and gray uniform stands on a stage with signage mentioning the Department of Agriculture and Forest Service. Behind them is a display screen and decorative wooden panels with partial text visible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Hear me all right? Okay, I'm Curly Bear Wagner. I'm a Blackfeet from, can you say Okie? Okie. Can you say that? There you go. That's how are you in Blackfeet. Okie. We say Okie Niskunny. Say Okie Niskunny. That's how are you, my friends. Then you reply, you say Sukapi. That's good. All right, but you guys look exokapi. That's real good, huh? All right. Some of the things that I've done, my past, is I'm the past culture director of the Blackfeet.
A person wearing glasses and a white long-sleeved shirt stands indoors, wearing a beaded necklace. Behind them is a glass storefront with partial lettering visible, and a U.S. Department sign is partially visible at the bottom of the frame.
And as culture director, I was involved in many issues concerning our people. One of the issues was saving the Sweetgrass Hills. We got a 20-year moratorium from the Secretary of Interior Babbitt, Sweetgrass Hills in the Badger 2 Medicine area. And also, we were the first tribe in the United States to get our ancestor remains at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., and also the Field Museum in Chicago, and brought our ancestors back home for proper burial. And so that was really a feather in our hat, counting coup on those guys, huh? And I remember...
A person wearing glasses and a white long-sleeved shirt sits indoors. They wear a beaded strand around their neck. Behind them is a wooden interior with a window and what appears to be institutional signage partially visible.
At the Smithsonian Institution, a little guy by Jubilaker, a little skinny guy at the Smithsonian, he's beating his little skinny fist on the desk, said, Curly Bear, it's impossible to get your ancestor remains out of here. I looked at him, I said, well, I don't lay my faith in man, I lay my faith in him up there, and we'll see if we get him out. But I call him up about once a month to see, and he'd get angry and the dickens with me. But we did it. All right, my people, the Blackfeet, I'm going to talk about tradition.
A person in a white long-sleeved shirt and beaded necklaces stands indoors. Behind them is a wooden podium or lectern with partial text visible reading Department O and U.S. on signage.
Our land started from the headwaters of the Saskatchewan River by Edmonton, Alberta, and running east to Battleford, Saskatchewan, then running south to the Missouri, up the Missouri to the Yellowstone, up the Yellowstone back into Teton country, that was traditionally Blackfeet land. Now there was us Blackfeet today in the United States. Our reservation is 1.5 million acres in size. There's the Bled, the Piikani, and the Siksika, and they're up north in Canada. So there's 4 bands of us. Actually 5 bands. The Small Rose band, the largest band of our people, they got wiped out by smallpox. So that was traditionally our land. Now, as I said, working with
a person wearing a white long-sleeved shirt stands at a wooden podium. Behind them is a dark wooden structure with partial text visible reading department, forest, and bureau, suggesting an official government building or presentation space.
As culture coordinator, I was involved in many issues concerning our people. Now, some of our people up in Canada, the Bear Nation, give me a call. A guy by the name of Albert Little Mustache. And Albert said, "Curly Bear, can you come down here and give us a hand up here and give us a hand? We have a VIP coming." Some of you may remember in the 80s when the Pope visited Canada. And he said the Pope was, I thought he was teasing me because my people have such a great sense of humor. And I said, "Yeah, I'd like to come up." He said, "Well, when you come up to our reserve," he said, "look for when you get to Fort McLeod and you turn out towards our reserve," he said, "look for milepost number 2.
A person in a white jacket and beaded necklace stands at a podium, gesturing while speaking. Behind them is a display showing logos for the U.S. Forest Service and Department of Education.
28, you take a left there. And so I drove up and I found milepost number 28. I took a left and went on down many roads in that area called Indian roads. I know I do archaeology work. I just finished down here. You see all the roads that these farmers and ranchers have all over the place. But they had a road plowed all the way down, and I followed it down in a very beautiful setting by the Old Man River. They're putting up a lodge, ceremonial lodge for our guests. And the men folks are out there putting that lodge up, and they're having a hard time. So I stopped the car, and I went out and I helped them. And we finally got the lodge up, and we put it up wrong, so we had to take it down and put it back up again.
A person in a white long-sleeved shirt and a beaded red necklace stands at a microphone indoors. Behind them are displays with text mentioning U.S. Forest and Department. They gesture with their hand while speaking.
It used to be the woman's job putting those lodges up, huh? Today, you ask women to put the lodge, they say, if you want that lodge up, Curly Bear, you put it up yourself. Kind of an Indian women's lib thing caught on amongst our people. So we're doing that work those women are supposed to be doing. So we got the lodge up. It was a 28-foot lodge, a ceremonial lodge with a bear lodge. Very sacred to our people. They came through visions, through dreams. And inside, we put a liner all the way around, also very beautifully designed. Then we laid buffalo robes throughout. In the center, we lit the fire. Then we put the willow backrests up. Now, these willow backrests, about 132 of those willows, like these easy chairs that you're leaning up against. We had that in place. Now, Albert, he was pretty nervous about everything.
A person wearing glasses and a light pink shirt with beaded necklaces stands at a microphone on a stage. Behind them is signage mentioning government departments. They appear to be pausing during a presentation.
So, since there's many roads getting that area, he placed these young kids up there on that road, so when the caravan came to come and visit, the Pope to come and visit our people, that they would find the right road. How this all started is the Pope was going to visit in Calgary, Alberta, and he was going to come down and visit the Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump. The Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump is recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site up in Canada. Some of you may have been up there. It's about a $6 million museum built right into the...
A person in a white long-sleeved shirt and red beaded necklaces stands at a microphone. Behind them is a podium or display with partial text visible reading department, U.S. Forest and Bureau.
Grounds, and the pagan heard about it. Since most of our people are Catholics, baptized Catholics, it gave us an opportunity for the Pope to visit the First Nations people. I always say First Nations. I don't really care to be called a Native American because most of you people are Native Americans, right? You're all born here, right? But I don't mind being called an Indian either. It doesn't bother me to be called an Indian because when Columbus came to this country, he was looking for India, huh? And he seen the people and he called them Indians. That was good. I'm glad he wasn't looking for the Virgin Islands or Turkey. Being a heck of
a person in a white shirt and beaded necklace stands indoors, hand raised to their head in a thoughtful gesture. Behind them is a monitor and partial text visible on a dark banner.
Fix it. So Indian don't bother me. And so when Everything was in place. Now, we had everything in order, and the Pope was coming down and from Calgary after spending some time up there and visiting the head smashed in buffalo jump. Now, the Pope is very highly thought of throughout the world. He's a very educated person, and he knows many languages. But my people know many languages too, because there's over 500 federally recognized tribes in the United States today, and we all speak a different language. And we sign language, huh? That's how we communicated with one another. That's like Drew here in the Core Discovery. He spoke sign language. And so that was in place. Now we were all set up waiting for him, and nothing happened. Pretty soon one of these young kids come running over the hill. Told Albert something. Albert dropped everything and went running over those hills. Apparently the caravan, the Pope, has taken a different road. And Albert panicked, and he was running over these little hills, and he seen the caravan coming some distance.
A person wearing glasses and a white shirt stands at a microphone, wearing a beaded necklace in red and white. Behind them is a backdrop with partial text reading department and USFO, suggesting an official presentation setting.
So he started waving his hands like this to get the Pope's attention and to get him on the right path. He was really waving his hands like this. He finally got the Pope's attention. And when he got the Pope rides in that Pope mobile, huh? Rides way up high, and he was waving like that. And he finally got his attention. He told him in sign language, he said, "Come on over to our lodge. We'll sit, we'll talk, we'll drink tea, be good, so copy." Told him in sign language, and the Pope went like this to him. So Albert, he came back to the lodge. He started rolling those willow backrests up and placed them outside, placing those buffalo robes outside. And those elders said, "Albert, what on earth are you doing? Did you get to talk to the Pope?" He said, "Yeah, what would you tell him?" "Well, I really...
A person in a white long-sleeved shirt and beaded necklace stands at a podium with arms raised, speaking to an audience. Behind them, partially visible text lists U.S. government departments including Agriculture, Education, and Indian Affairs.
I waved my hands like this. I finally got his attention. The Pope's attention. I told him in sign language, I said, "Come on over to our lodge. We'll sit, we'll talk, we'll drink tea, be good." Well, what did the Pope say? The Pope said, "Take your teepee down and get the hell out of here." I was in Italy a couple of times. I want to tell that story over there. I thought I better not. I'm going to get the hell out of there. Is everybody from Montana here? Any out-of-staters? Who's from out of state? Where are you from? Illinois, huh? I spent a lot of time in Chicago. New York? New York? Arizona? South Dakota? Who's from Havre? No.
A person wearing glasses and a white long-sleeved shirt sits indoors with a red beaded necklace. Behind them is a vehicle with U.S. text visible on its side, and a window with bright light.
All right, well, welcome to our beautiful country. The Blackfeet called Fort Benton mini horses because of the trade here. They didn't like us too much, so they kicked us out of here. Well, anyway, I'm going to talk about my people, and I'll eventually work to the encounter. And the Blackfeet are the oldest plains-living tribe on the plains. We can trace our ancestors well back over 5,000 years of being on the plains. We were hunters and gatherers. We didn't grow any kind of crops. We had about 75 plants that we used for food and for medicine, so we depended upon the buffalo for the staff of life for our people.
A person in a white long-sleeved shirt and beaded necklace stands on a stage with a dark podium, looking downward. Text visible on the backdrop mentions natural, conservation, and department. Before coming to the horse, we used dogs as a means of transportation. It was a wolf-like dog. We put a harness over the dog, and that's the way we travel. Now, an average family of 4 to 6 people would have about up to 15 dogs to move their belongings. A lot of dogs. And buffalo being the staff of life for our people, so we had various ways of hunting the buffalo. One of the ways is run them off over these cliffs, these buffalo jumps we call piskins. And we did this in the late fall, around October, so we had enough meat to last us through the winter. We dried the meat. A person in a white jacket with a beaded necklace stands at a microphone, gesturing with their hand. Behind them is a dark backdrop with partial text visible reading Department of Age, U.S. Forest, and Bureau of In.
And this was a food source, but we also hunted buffalo on the plains on an everyday basis also. Now then, the first white man to make contact with us was in 1754, a guy by the name of Alexander Hendry. He came with the Hudson Bay people, and they wanted to open up trade with us. Well, we opened up our arms to them because they had a lot to offer to us. They come in here to coexist, not to take from us. And so we opened up trade there after the beaver. They wanted us to go back to the Hudson Bay and bring our wares back there, our beaver skins, and we said, no, we don't.
A person in a white blazer and beaded necklace stands on a stage, gesturing while speaking. Behind them is a dark wooden structure with partial text visible mentioning U.S. Forest Service and Department of.
We don't know how to paddle canoe, and we don't eat fish. And that's true. We never ate fish at that time because my people are very superstitious. Like I say, why we never ate fish, because we're nomadic people and we had to cross these rivers all the time. And we were highly believers of the Saitapi spirit, the water spirit. And when we came to the creeks, we'd leave offerings and talk and say, let our elders and our young people cross in a good way. Don't take their lives, because you know the rivers are very strong. And then we'll leave your children alone. That's the reason.
A person wearing glasses and a white long-sleeved shirt stands at a microphone wearing beaded necklaces. Behind them is a dark backdrop with partial text visible mentioning Department of, U.S. Forest Service, and Bureau.
Why we never ate fish? Because of our spiritual beliefs. And after coming to the horse, it changed our life completely. The horse meant great wealth to our people. And to gain more wealth to our people, we had to go out and what we call take horses from other tribes. In the history books, it said that we were horse thieves. Those Blackfeet were horse thieves. We weren't horse thieves. We were horse takers, because everything was done through prayer. And I'll tell you a story leading up to Lewis and Clark.
A person wearing a white long-sleeved shirt and a beaded red necklace stands at a microphone on stage. Behind them is a backdrop displaying text referencing U.S. government departments including the U.S. Forest Service, Department of Education, and Bureau of Reclamation.
Now, to gain wealth, these young boys, it was probably the poorer kids in our bands now would be the one that would go out and taking these horses. Because every time you did, you put your life on the line. And so these young boys would gather and they'd go get guidance from the elders. They may bring them a pipe. So we're going to go take horses and build them a sweat lodge. And the sweat lodge is like our church. It's made of 12 willows interwoven together. And in the side of our sweat lodge in the center, we dig a hole for the hot rocks to be placed inside that hole.
A person in a white long-sleeved shirt and red beaded necklace stands at a microphone. Behind them is a vehicle or display with text reading Department of U.S. Forest Service and Department of Bureau.
And then we go and prepare. Now, we didn't call them medicine men because we had no word for medicine. We called them mysterious men. So anything that we didn't understand, we called it mysterious. He'd come with his pipe. Now, you guys know it as a peace pipe. But to us, the pipe is a connection between us and the Creator. Now, the bowl of the pipe, it's made of stone. So to us, that represents the earth. The stem of the pipe, it's made of wood. So to us, that represents all living things on the earth. And the smoke that comes out of our pipe, we believe that's our prayers going up to the Creator, because the smoke is like a spirit. You see it, then it disappears. So that was our connection.
A person in a white long-sleeved shirt and red beaded vest stands beside a dark podium or display case. Behind them, text on a dark background reads U.S. Forest Service and other partial department names.
Because when when they wrote about my people, they said the sun was our God. The sun wasn't our God. Our God is the same God as your God. Only thing that in our beliefs, in our ways, everything is real. And so we honored the sun every morning. We still do, because our traditions and culture is still very much alive. Every morning we leave an offering to the sun and thank the sun for what the sun gives to us. What does the sun give to us? Heat, light, and it's an energy force to make all things grow, huh? And so therefore we honor that.
A person in a white shirt stands at a podium with a red beaded object around their neck. Behind them is a dark backdrop with white text reading Department of and references to U.S. Forest Service and Department of Interior.
And then when the sun goes home in the evening, we leave another offering thanking Him for the day that He's given to us. Because when the Creator created this creation, everything is living, from the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, the mountains, the trees, the rocks, the grass, the gravel, the water. Everything is living. And they're all related. And we're part of that relationship. Without those things out there, we can't survive as a people, so we need them. Working in the Sweetgrass Hills and working with the Bureau of Land Management, we educated them about our ways. And working with the ranchers and the farmers in that area, because water is very important. We call it a giver of life. So all these things are connected. And so that's what we pray. When we pray all directions. And so these boys are going in there. They're going down into Crow country to take horses, and that's what they want. They want spiritual blessing, that they make this journey in a good way. And they're just young kids, and their leader is picked, and they go in there, and when you go in the sweat lodge, you go for 4 rounds. One round consists of 4 songs, prayer, and splashing the water onto the steam, onto the rocks to create the steam.
A person in a white shirt and red beaded necklaces stands at a podium, gesturing with their hands while speaking. Behind them is a dark backdrop with partial text visible, including references to government departments and bureaus.
And it's cleansing our souls. It's uprooting the evil spirits. So all been into a sauna before? You all been into a sauna? You come into a sweat. Who's been into a sweat lodge? A sweat lodge make a sauna look like a piker. It gets really hot in there. Sometimes you're praying to get out. It's so hot. Anyway, when that's over, they get ready in preparation to go. And what they do, they take a blanket with them. They take their spiritual things with them. Now, and moccasins are found in because it's a long journey. When we went into Crow country, we walked from...
A person in a white shirt and red beaded vest stands at a microphone on a stage. Behind them are banners displaying text about the U.S. Forest Service and Department of the Interior.
All the way down into Crow, about a 2-week journey down there. And we didn't call them scouts. Today I always say, well, those Indian scouts are way out there. We had no word for scout. We don't know what scout is. So we called them cranes, because a crane is great finder of things. That's what we called them. Our cranes would be out looking for the enemy as we traveled. And as we traveled, constant prayer was going on all the time. Everything we did was through prayer, and it's still that way even today. When I came down here this morning, I left an offering prayer that I have a safe journey down here to talk to you good people. And on our journey, things get quite difficult sometimes. Sometimes, if a person starts having bad dreams, the leader, then they'll turn around and go home. Or an individual, if he has dreams that his...
A person wearing glasses and a white jacket stands at a microphone, wearing beaded necklaces. Behind them is a dark background with partial text visible referencing government departments and bureaus.
Going to get killed or something bad's going to happen to him, he turns around and he leaves. Nothing is said to him. Nothing is said. Nobody makes fun of him or teases him or nothing, because it's very serious, and we looked at it in a very serious manner. And so they traveled during the day in Blackfeet country. When they got close into Crow country, Absaroka country, they traveled at night. And the cranes would be way up, maybe 1 mile to 2 miles ahead of them, always looking for the enemy. When the crow is spotted, that crane will run in a zigzag way, knowing that the area has been found. And so what they do is they go build a war lodge. Now, a war lodge is willows and trees stacked together like a lodge. And inside there, they get ready and prepare to get ready and go and take horses. Now, as the cranes are coming in, these young warriors take a bunch of sticks and they pile them up about so high off the ground, maybe 2 feet, and pile them. So when the cranes come in, they kick those sticks like that, and those sticks scatter like that. Everybody runs for them and picks up a stick. And how many sticks they get, that's how many horses they're going to take. And so they made a game of it too, and always having fun doing it. Now, inside that lodge, their preparation was made. Now they start painting their faces. Now they just didn't paint them anyway. And you know, you always hear about these Indian teams, college teams, and paint and all that. The paint is very sacred. It was probably given to you by your grandfather or by your father and uncle, or you may have had a vision. And so that paint was put on, and songs were connected with it. That warrior would go in and say, well, let's drag out your hymn books today, and we'll open up to page 56, and we'll horse-taking hymn. We didn't do things like that. Huh? Everybody sang their own individual songs. Now, once the songs are done, the Blackfeet would go over and absorb the Crow. Huh? Now the Crow, all the Plains tribes are pretty much alike because there's a lot of activities going on at night, and we didn't really set guards out on our horses. But their best horses were tied alongside their lodge, probably around the owner's wrist, Crow way. Crows were very good horse people. And the buffalo horses were very well trained. You just ride them. You could guide them with your knees, like such. I give a presentation on all that stuff too. And so what do we want to do is cut their ropes and get the best trained horses they had. Now when the Indians are taking horses, what they do, they feel the back tail of the horse. And my uncle, a long time ago, he was a horse doctor, and I knew him real well as a little guy. He used to say, you feel the tail of the mane if it isn't thick and it is kind of loose and kind of light, and feel the horse's veins. If the veins are sticking out, he's no good. He ain't a good runner. And so the manes had to be very thin and no veins sticking out. So that's how they picked their fast runners. But I always thought, well, when you're taking horses, you ain't too particular. You take what you can get and get the heck out of there. That's the way I looked at it. Now, what they do, they set the young boys in the brush and they go on in, and what they do, they would take this pitch from the cottonwood trees and rub it all over themselves. Try to get that smell. For a Blackfeet to smell like a crow would be pretty hard. But we tried anyway. Any crows here? No. And they go on in and they'd go on in and they would start taking the horses, and not so good horses, they take them and start running them home. Now I'll stop right there. In the meantime, Lewis and Clark had just come on over Lolo Pass and stopped at Traveler's Rest. And here they split their party up. Clark was to take a group and go down the Yellowstone. Meriwether Lewis took Sergeant Orway, Thompson, McNeil, and Goodrich, Field Brothers, and Drewier, and head on back down into this country. Yeah? Now he's going to leave Orway, Thompson, McNeil, and Goodrich in Great Falls to dig up the rest of their stuff and float on down. And they're going to meet down here by Loma, Montana, where the Bear River pours into the Missouri. We call it the Bear River. They call it the Marias. And so that was the plan. Now they knew when they was coming up into this part of the country, what they were looking for was more land. They thought the water would go beyond the 49th parallel. And this is what they wanted to reclaim more land. And so when they left Great Falls, they cut overland. They come by Rose River out here. You guys call it the Teton. We call it the Rose. And they crossed. They kept running into Indian signs. All the time they run into Indians. Fresh Indian signs by meaning lodge circles and what have you. And doing the archaeology work last week, I was running into a lot of teepee rings out there, and all this time I was thinking about Lewis and Clark, because I was walking through those farmers' fields. And my goodness, they're hard walking through. Gee, many crickets. But it made me feel good because I'm sure it was a lot harder coming up that Missouri River. And so that kind of put my mind at ease. But we found a lot of sites coming in. And so they see these signs, and they went on. They followed Marias or the Bear River all the way up until it started turning southwest. And that would be the cut bank. And the cut bank start turning like that. And so they camped. It was cloudy, it was hazy. They couldn't read his instruments. It was raining, couldn't really see the Rocky Mountains. They stayed there for a couple days, and they called that area Camp Disappointment. And they left there, and they went overland, hit the Two Medicine, and start following the Two Medicine down about 4 miles where Badger Creek turns into Two Medicine. They stopped. They sent Drewier. Now Drewier was an Indian, a Shawnee Indian. Sent him out to hunt for deer, and they decided to come up off the blends up onto the flat area and look around. Now, when they got up there, up on top of the ridge, they were scouting around, and to their surprise, they seen the Indians, 8 of them. Well, they were scared. The Indians didn't see them. They were down looking at Drewier. And I do tours in that area. I take people out to that site. Now, where the Blackfeet were, they're looking down, and where Clark was maybe about mile or so away, and there's a little dip like that, and it comes back up on the hill. So the Indians came on down that little dip, and they come up on this hill, and that's when they seen Meriwether Lewis and the Field brothers, Joseph and Reuben Fields. Of course, they're young kids. They were kind of scared, I'm sure, but also very curious who these people were. Now, we were used to seeing these Napiquans. We always call them Napiquans, means old man, because they always had beards. The French and so on always had these big beards, so we call them Napiquans, old men. And so we were curious, and we were going to find out who they were. And so they planned amongst themselves, and Meriwether Lewis was standing out there. I'm sure he was pretty frightened. And Blackfeet took one boy and took out after him full tilt on horseback. The rest of the boys stood back. And he had his club and his spear in his hand. Meriwether Lewis was standing there, raising his hand like that. And the Blackfeet got maybe the length of his tent and turned his horse and took back off. Meriwether Lewis didn't show fear. If he showed fear and he turned his back, that Indian would have come back up and struck him behind the head. We learned that from the bear, huh? We're taught if a bear comes at us, not to lay down and play dead. Don't make eye contact. Stand still. And the biggest chances out of 100, he'll turn and he'll leave you alone because you don't show fear. So we learned that. And so they went back and they said, well, where our tobacco is low. Now I know these Napiquans, they have a lot of tobacco. Let's go see who they are. So they went down, and he was trying to talk sign language to the Blackfeet, and he wasn't doing a very good job. So they sent for Julier, who was out hunting the deer. You know, one of the Field brothers and Blackfeet rode off that cliff and found him, and they come back in. And you know, up on the plains, and this happened in July, it gets awful hot up there, and they were sitting there visiting, because sign language, they said, well, let's go down and we'll camp. There's 3 trees down there. Go camp by those trees. And so they did get some shade. They put up buffalo robes and they made shade. And they began to talk sign language. Well, he went into his dog and pony show, and Blackfeet really didn't make much sense of it. But one of the things that did happen, they said they wanted to open up trade with us. They wanted to bring guns into the Shoshones, into the Crow, into our enemies. Because the Blackfeet at that time, our enemies were the Flathead, Salish, Kootenai, Coeur d'Alene, Nez Perce, Shoshone, Arapaho, Crow, Cheyenne, Sioux, Mandan, Hidatsa, Rickarah, Gros-Ventre. Gros-Ventres were our allies at that time. So that was our enemies, and we didn't want anybody to be equal with us. Huh? So it didn't strike us too keen. And so as night came, Tobacco Run Row, they went to lay down to rest. They kept guard. Blackfeet came along early in the morning, took one of Reuben Fields' guns and took off. They hollered at him, dropped it. Another one took a gun and started walking away. And Reuben Fields went up, caught the boy, tackled him, stabbed him in the heart. His name was Sidehill Calf. Without Clark's permission, or Meriwether Lewis's permission, killed him instantly. Took about a couple steps and died. And that started the confusion. His horse started running away. Meriwether Lewis was a hard sleeper. He finally arose and seen his horses were being taken. He pulled his pistol and he shot one of the Indians. He didn't kill him. He just grazed him, wounded him. And a lot of history books have said that he was killed. He wasn't killed. He brought him back home. And a lot of confusion. They started running their horses off and going to the Indian boys. They took off, tailed it for home, and left some of their best horses there. Now these horses were quite unique because these horses can run from sunup to sundown without stopping. These were the Spanish barbs that were brought over here by Cortez, and that's also another story. But these horses were bred by the Moors of Africa. Huh? This is why they were such. They can go great distances without food or water for a day or so, a couple of days. And so they left a peace medal on Sidehill Calf, and they left. We went back, told our warriors, our real people, and they took after them, but they had about a day and a half's journey on us, so we couldn't catch them. Meriwether Lewis and the Field brothers, Julier, came on down. There were Loma Montana's day. And about that time, they heard a shot, and it was Orway, Thompson, McNeil, and Goodrich coming down. They were happy to see him. They dropped everything, jumped on their boats, and they took off. How much time I got? All right, good. I'll make some of these stories real short. Now, one of the great stories is, you probably heard the John Coulter story, huh? You guys hear that story this afternoon? The John Coulter story? Well, John Coulter was going on back, and he ran into a couple guys that were coming up the Missouri River, and they were going to trade, so he got permission. He came up with them. He trapped and traded all winter, and then he was going back on down. He met Manuel Lisa and joined his party. Manuel Lisa was the first one to build a trading post in the state of Montana, which is the state of Montana, and that's where the Little Bighorn pours into the Yellowstone. And so he worked with Manuel Lisa. One of his duties was to make peace with the Blackfeet as an ambassador. But he went out with some Crows, they joined some Flatheads, and there was a skirmish with the Blackfeet. Coulter was grazed on the side of the leg, shot. So Coulter to the Blackfeet was a man who fought on the other side. And as time went on, he was up trapping in the Three Forks area. We have our names for the three rivers up there. One was Medicine Woman River, or Medicine Woman River. They were coming down that river, a guy by the name of Potts and him. And the book says they run into a whole bunch of Indians, maybe a couple 100,000 or so. And he was called out of the ship, out of the boats. They stopped, hid their traps. Coulter got out, Potts didn't. They said they filled his body with bullet holes. When Coulter got out, he said this old man talked to him, said, "You better run, you better run." He didn't listen to the old man, but they stripped him naked and probably run him through the Gatling line, and he said he kept running. He took off running, and he ran and ran, and he looked behind him. His Indians were chasing him. This one Indian with a spear and a blanket was coming close to him, and he ran for maybe 4 or 5 miles. Blood was coming from his nose. He stopped. He got in a wrestling match with that Indian, took him down. That Indian started begging for his life, but Coulter killed him anyway, jumped up and took off, dove into the river, hid in the beaver dam, took his blanket and beaver hut. That night, he got out of the beaver hut and he crossed over the mountains, another 500-mile journey back to Fort Manuel Lisa. That was a story. What really happened, we wouldn't be traveling with that many 500 or even 100 or even 50, probably a small party of maybe 30 people out on a hunting, 30 Indians out on a hunting patrol, because we weren't going to no major battle and we weren't making no major move. Just think how much buffalo it would take to feed that many men. And we didn't have any of our women folks with us or nothing. And he did stop, and maybe Potts took a shot at one of the Indians, and the Indian shot him. They didn't rivet his body with bullets, because bullets was hard to come by. You know, and we never shot off a horse, huh? Like in the movies, we never did shoot like that. Because you ever try to shoot, some of you ranchers and stuff, shoot riding a horse, you're never going to hit nothing, except John Wayne, you know. John Wayne could shoot and 15 Indians will fall over. But when we shot off the horses, we always got off and shot. And I'll make that point. And so then he took off running, and well, then he went on over. Well, anyway, the story is that first place, you're not going to outrun a Blackfeet Indian, you know, in those days. You know, look how many times we run the cross-country state championship. I think we set some kind of a national record 24 years in a row. That's our young people today, when our people are natural-born runners. And no Indian's going to carry a spear with him. There's certain people carried spears, and these spears are long. They're from 8 to 12 feet long, our spears. And they were used for sacred purposes in those days, because we had the rifle in those. And who's going to carry a blanket with him while he's chasing somebody, huh? Stop and warm up every once in a while. And there's no way in the world you're going to get in the beaver hut, hide in the beaver house, huh? You guys know the beaver huts, you know, they're only about this deep inside. There's 2 stories to them, huh? And so and he didn't run naked all the way back there. He was frozen to death going over those mountains. Traditionally, any time we run into we had a battle, that may be the Flathead, Crow, anybody. And we always let one person alive to go back and tell the story, always. We give them the best provisions, we give them the horse, the food, clothe him up good, go back and story. They said, they told culture, stay out of our country, because they were trapping here, and that was our economic base. There was a lot of bloodshed spilled upon these plains, and it shouldn't have never happened. And they could have come up here and opened up trade with us. They didn't. They come in and start taking the beaver. And that's like someone going to your home, taking your belongings, say you don't need these things. Or you're going to retaliate too, huh? But a lot of we were labeled of being bad people. We were just protecting what was rightfully ours. And so these are some of the incidents that occurred up home at that time, until they finally wised up and hired a guy by the name of McKinsey. McKinsey worked with the Hudson Bay people. He came in and started at Fort Union, brought a guy by the name in here, Berger. Berger lived amongst the Blackfeet for 25 years. He sent Berger up in the Blackfeet country, had to come on down and open up for trade. Berger went up what is now the Blackfeet Indian Reservation up on Badger Creek, well into our reservation, almost on the mountain front. He met the Blackfeet. One of the chiefs was Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman, they wanted to attack him. He said, no, they got the white flag. Let's see what they want. They recognized it was Berger. He could speak the language fluently. And they said, come on down and we will trade with you. And a lot of those signs, that's when, so the Blackfeet went on down and opened up trade. And the artist that did all this artwork on his tent out here, what's his name? Huh? Wagner, absolutely. He was up and he painted like buffalo bull back fat and those Blackfeet and blood Indians that you see over there. Buffalo bull back fat was one of my ancestors. I was back at National Museum Art Gallery where they have a big painting of him during the Lewis and Clark expedition that was going on. And they did open up trade. And they wanted to build a trading place up here. So Blackfeet gave them permission to come on up, and they opened up Fort Peigan. And this was in 1832. A guy by the name of Joe Kipp came and built that fort there, and they opened up trade. Bloods came and burnt it down. When as time went on, we did start trading with Americans. They offered us more, and got rid of the British. And now, I did a lot of work on Lewis and Clark from the First Nations perspective. I got 150 hours of going up and down from I start from St. Louis, the mounds, Cahokia, the mounds out there. We start shooting out there, and we've interviewed the Omaha, Ponca, Osage, Oto, Mandan, Hidatsa, and Rikara, all these tribes coming on up the Missouri River, all the way on over to Fort Clatsop. We're doing the Indians' perspective of Lewis and Clark from our perspective. We do the history before they came, their involvement, and then the after effects. We finished our first one called Two Worlds at Two Medicine. That's the Blackfeet encounter. We put it in DVD form. We've taken it to Harvard, all over the country, to the Isle George Museum in Indianapolis, the Indian Education Conference, National Indian Education Conference in Phoenix, and so on, all over the country. Got excellent reviews. I've given it to our governor in the state of Montana. The Indian Education Office of Public Instruction was very happy to see this because they want more Indian education system in their schools. So what we've done is going to be put in the schools systems today. They were drawn up the educational curriculum that goes with it. It's very interesting to hear all sides of the story. So we're telling our side, and there's a lot of. It's not really. It's great. I mean, they did a wonderful job. The National Park Service people seen it at Glacier, and they said this is one of the best put together Lewis and Clark perspective that they've seen. And so we have that with us today. Right behind us is my son, who was the star, one of the stars in the reenactment. We're selling it. It is great. We're selling it for $25. It cost us $100,000 to put together. A professional film crew from Indianapolis. I didn't know what I was getting my head into. A lot of money. So I owe money yet, but it's great. We're getting it. We're getting it accomplished. And you can purchase that, and also Blackfeet stories in there. And I always like to end, but I'll ask for questions. I always think of my elders, and I have the most respect for them because they've given me all my wisdom and knowledge. And I was raised in the traditional way of my people, and have a lot of respect for my elders. But if I could speak to my elders of long time ago, I would tell them, many things have changed since you've been gone, but some things still remain the same. They're very mysterious, but yet we need them in our everyday life, and that's love, faith, and hope. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of you. If you have any questions, thank you. The CDs are out there if you like to.
If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand. I'll bring the microphone around so everybody can hear you. Did we have any questions for Curly Bear? There we go. Hold on.
How many buffalo would it take to feed a family? In the wintertime, a cow buffalo could produce about 600 pounds of meat. They weighed about 1,200 pounds, so about half of it was in meat. And that meat source would last them just a little over a month, because they consume a lot of food. They could sit down and they could consume 2 to 3 pounds of meat at one sitting. So that's a lot of buffalo meat. And we're still meat eaters today. Good. Well,
all right.
we eat the beef today. Right here.
Did your divisions of the tribe, did they migrate across back and forth the plains for the hunting areas or something?
Well, they tried to migrate into Blackfeet country, but we wouldn't let them. The buffalo. Blackfeet stayed from which is now Edmonton, Alberta, down to the Teton country. We stayed. We didn't migrate from that. We wandered. We was nomadic. Yeah, we wandered. We didn't grow any kind of crops. We wandered all over. Yeah.
I have one more.
Yeah. No. Most people they call them lodge circles. And when I first started doing archaeology work, I was walking to these archaeologists, and I said, what you doing is measuring your lodge. Well, you're going to have to go out a couple more feet if you get our right measurements on it, because that's inside of our liner. We rocked our liners down, and we pegged our lodges down. Because, my goodness, if we rocked our lodges down, how in the world is the smoke going to get out? Huh? And if we rock them down, the wind blows hard in our country. Our lodges had to be flexible. Huh? They had to be able to move. And if they rocked down, they'd rip, or we'd find them in Chicago somewhere. Yeah, there were. You had the Apaches down in that part of the country, and the Comanches and Kiowa also.
I'm sorry, I meant Montana.
Yeah.
Did I say Arizona?
Yeah, I said Arizona.
No, I meant Montana.
Yeah.
Keep your rings down there.
Oh, yeah.
Springdale.
Yeah. I do archaeology work on that. We see a lot of that stuff all over the place. Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions? Right
Question
here.
over here.
Contact with the Blackfeet and the Lewis and Clark expedition happened on their return trip.
Yeah.
Did the Blackfeet Nation know that they were going through this area in 1804?
The Blackfeet knew that they were going through our area. We knew that they were coming up because word was sent from us when they wintered with the Mandan. The Grovants came through that part of the country, and they were allies. We knew of these people coming up. They had nothing to offer to us, meaning nothing to trade. So we didn't want to bother with them because we were quite busy people in the summertime. We just have a few months to gather berries, hunt, get our robes in preparation for the winter. And so they were just they were just people passing through. We didn't care who they were, Lewis and Clark. Didn't make any difference to them. But they had nothing, so we called them nothing people. They were coming through. They had nothing to trade. And we didn't bother them. We seen them going up the river. We just passed them. I mean, might have been hunting buffalo or taking horses, and that would have interrupted us. And we'd had to listen to their dog and pony show.
All right. Well, thank you, Curly Bear, for presenting here in the 10 Many Voices. Curly Bear is going to be back out at his table with his DVDs, so I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any more questions you have out there. Our next presentation in here